Awesome. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you. Thanks for joining Let's Talk Money, presented by DreamFi. I'm Dana L. Cox, head of product and user experience here at DreamFi, and I'll be your host. Uh, Thanks for spending part of your day, your lunch break with us. And if you have questions for our panel, a little housekeeping, I'm going to ask you to put yourselves on mute, drop your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom. The team will be definitely moderating that and the chat, so we want to make sure we get your questions answered. But I am super excited to spend this afternoon, this period of time with attorney Ben Crump, our co-founder and chief dream builder here at DreamFi, and the illustrious Mical Jeanlys-White. Am I close?
Very close.
I've been practicing, McCall. I've been practicing.
It's a mouthful.
It is. Founder and CEO of WealthMore. And so I'm super excited to spend this period of time with you to talk about investing and helping these families to build financial freedom and empower these lives. So I'm going to give you both a little time to kind of introduce yourself. McCall, if it's okay if I start with you.
Sure. Dana, Attorney Crump, it is a pleasure to be here. I it's an honor to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is getting more people to invest, particularly people that have been left out of the investing conversation. You guys will hear me say this over and over today. Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, and enough of our people are not on the earning side of it. I spent 20 years on Wall Street, spent 10 years at JP Morgan, led a $22 billion credit card portfolio that had 13 million users on it. So people regularly paying interest and revolving. Went on to build the firm's buy now, pay later platform, My Chase Plan. We wanted to find a way to help people, give them somewhat of a APR interest break on emergency items, but I had access to the information of 60 million US households. And you begin to quickly realize that there are two distinct groups. You have the people that are routinely spending and borrowing, and then the people who have gotten to the right place where they are saving and investing. And those people own 93% of the stock market, is owned by 10% of the population. Let that sink in. 93% of the stock market is owned by 10% of US households. And you might say, well, how's this happen? Well, they've figured out this compounding interest,
Mm.
but also get a wealth advisor. 70% of Americans do not have access to a wealth advisor. That's roughly 100 to 120 million people. Most of us live in a wealth management desert, grew up in one. It is easier to find a check cashing or a standalone ATM than it is to find someone to give you some real advice so you could put your money to work. That's why I left. That's why I built WealthMore. I saw this tremendous opportunity to get more people investing, more people building wealth, and really to normalize the conversation. Everyone can be an investor. Everyone on this call, everyone that will come in and see this video afterwards, you all have the ability to be an investor. But because we haven't always had the capacity to invest big dollars, we've been left out. And that's what WealthMore solves for. I don't need you to be a millionaire to join WealthMore. I need you to have the intention to build wealth, and we'll take it from there.
So, McCall, thank you for sharing your journey to Wealthmore, right? And just what you've seen and what kind of helped you make that transition. Can you give us a checklist specifically? How much in savings? What kind of debt? Hand, I should say, what kind of debt? What income stability before someone can like take their first dollar to the market? What does that? What does that mix look like? Is there a magic formula?
There are definitely some guidelines, right? But the first thing I want people to do is view themselves as an investor. I want you to say, I'm an investor. Like, if you can earn money, you should view yourself as an investor. And for too many people, they can't even see themselves as an
Mm-hmm.
investor. So I want you to put the stock market. The stock app is literally on your phone. I want you to put it on the phone. I want you to get in the habit of looking at the S&P 500, looking at the Dow Jones. I want you to assume that persona. I am an investor too. Now we get to the capacity, right? I want you to have an emergency fund. That should be 3 to 6 months of your full household expenses. You should have in an emergency fund. That emergency fund should be in a high yield savings account. So even that you should be trying to get some return on. Now we can get into investing. And that's where you're covered, you're doing that, and you have a good handle on your debt, right? You only have debt that is at lower APR interest rates. You've gotten rid of any like high interest debt because that's a numbers game, that's a math game. The stock market historically has returned 8 to 10%. But if you have credit cards that you're paying 29%, 20%, there's no way the stock market is likely to deliver over that. So you've got to take care of that debt.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Attorney Crump, with the nature of your work, before someone's first dollar goes anywhere, what are some of the safeguards that they should have in place? And what have you seen happen to families who didn't have those things in place? Oh, you're on mute, Attorney Crump.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
First, Dana, before I answer your question, let me say how delighted I am to have McCall on with us to learn from her as one of the most profound thought leaders in this field. To our DreamFi family, we know that you're going to learn a lot. I want to apologize. Obviously, sometimes I get busy with court fighting for the equal opportunity of all our children, black, white, brown, and red, to have an equal opportunity at the American promise of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. So I'm so happy and thrilled that you came back to be with us today and that McCall had time in her schedule to come back since we missed the opportunity last week because of my calling in the courtroom fighting in Mississippi and other places, as you all know. With that said, McCall, you just hit it on the point about more people have to be investing. As Dana and all of us at DreamFi, we're trying to get people to think about things that they've never thought about before, to see themselves as doing different things, because the only way to make progress is you have to change your way you were doing things, the way you were thinking. And so we're trying to help people understand that generational wealth first starts in your mind. It first starts with the way you think about things. And so, Dana, I think you said your question was about how to help people with where they're at and how to handle their finances. Um,
What, like, thinking about the first dollar, like, with the nature of the work that you do, right, and the fighting that you're doing on behalf of all of us, what is one of the safeguards that people need to have in place that you recommend? And then what happens to a family when they don't have that safeguard in place?
yeah, you know, the first thing I think it goes to your mentality. You need to have a budget or a plan. You can't just willy-nilly going out here, as McCall said, you want to try to figure out 3 to 6 months of income expenses. If I think you always got to have a rainy day fund because life throws so many curveballs at you. In the nature of what I do, most people see us doing these high-profile police brutality, police killings, civil rights type cases. But in reality, we do so much more with personal injury and, medical malpractice, things that are life emergencies that come from nowhere. They throw you a curveball. So you have to be prepared for those things because, as McCall said, we have to try to shift your mentality to say, I can be an investor. I can have life and have life more abundantly. I got to look at the things that I'm doing and figure out, help me to make a difference. And all of us need people like McCall. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
God has blessed me. I got a few coins, but I still have to turn to people like McCall to say, I want to know what to do to get the most of making my money work for me, not just have me working for money.
Mm,
And so with that, the thing I do worry about a lot, just on the most elementary level, since we know life are going to throw curveballs at you, and there are going to be some real emergencies. You know what DreamFi tries to do for all their members, make sure they have a life insurance plan, because, and I'm sure McCall can talk about that as well, about how important that is, not just to handle the most basic of life's challenges when that time comes, but also to prepare for your children and your spouses to be able to have something, using insurance as an investment vehicle, not just as a burial plan. And so it's these things here that I think is shocking to me, Dana, because in so many of these cases, and it's heartbreaking, not only is it tragic how they lost their loved one, but they're, and many times they don't even have enough insurance or finances to give them a proper burial. And so then you have people like Reverend Al and Tyler Perry and
mhm,
Jay-Z to step in. But we don't want people to have to depend on the kindness of strangers. We want them to be self-sufficient and
mhm,
financially empowered. And the last thing I will say is this. Um, it's about where you at. Uh,
mhm,
you know, and you have to always remember that, y'all. Uh, your getting ready to do it is a mindset. You there's no better time than today to say, I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to work smarter, not harder. And I want to learn how to become part of that 10%. And what we want to do at DreamFi is make that 10% increase. We
mhm,
want to see more of us in that percentage. We don't want to always be counted as unbanked and underbanked. We want to see us be able to be banked so our children will have a generational wealth mentality.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think,
You know,
what you and McCall both mentioned here are definitely foundational prerequisites, right? It's having that plan around where my money goes, but then also some of the pillars, right? Having a life insurance policy in order for, in the case, right? And I think oftentimes people think, I don't really need insurance, right? But it's the thing that you pay for or have in case things happen. And life is always going to do what it does for us, right? It's always going to throw us a curveball and we're going to have to pivot. It's not going to ask our permission. It's just going to show up one day out of left field.
yeah. Can I
As- Absolutely.
um add to the life insurance thing because I'm
Hmm.
so passionate about this as well. Um, Life insurance is love, people. It's love. It is making sure that if something bad happens, the people you love and care about are taken care of. And what has historically happened in our community is that we have been sold burial insurance, which is generally like 10 to 20,000. But what is sold in other communities is 2 to 3 times that household's income. Right? Just think about that. You should have life insurance that is 2 to 3 times your income, particularly if people depend on your income. That is what prevents you from having to weather tragedy by having to liquidate your investments,
Hmm.
right? Other
Mm.
communities that were sold the proper life insurance, if God forbid something happens, that house is not going up for sale. People are not having to move out of their neighborhoods. They're not having to like go from being middle class to being, less than that because they have covered 2 to 3 times the income of the breadwinners in that household.
Hmm.
And I know this, I'm a first generation American. When I got our policies, people were like, that's bad luck. You gonna die. No, I'm not. I'm still here. So we have like these stigmas around getting life insurance and getting estate planning. Oh, that's bad juju. No, it's not. It is taking care of your financial house.
It's interesting that you say that. One, I love life insurance is love, right? I'm going to borrow that from time to time. Life
Sure.
insurance is love, but oftentimes we don't have even burial insurance to even think about being able to have that full blown life insurance. And I also think that the two things that are certain are death and taxes. Those two things are certain for everybody, no matter what economic status you have or where you come from. Those two things are certain for all of us. Um, why not be prepared?
Yeah. And get the insurances when you're young and
Hmm.
early because that is when it's like super inexpensive. It's like $10, $20 when you are 20 years old and you can get a 30-year, 40-year policy. You can also get additional policies as your life expands and you need more, which a lot of people don't know that, but you can
Hmm.
get additional policies. And please, folks, I'm on my soapbox here, but give me one more second on this. Please do not just rely on the policies that you have at work, because if you stay at a job for 10, 15 years and then you leave, that policy, if you try to take it with you, is way more expensive. So always have your own policies as well. That's all I'm gonna say on this. I'm done.
No, appreciate all those gems, all the nuggets, and this is really foundational work for DreamFi, as Attorney Crump mentioned. We're literally wanting to walk alongside folks and be their partner in their journey to financial freedom. And so, a lot of the things that we have built into the offering and what DreamFi is bringing to the community are the things that we know that kind of are those pivot points, right? Where life takes your needs out or could potentially take your needs out. Most of us are one emergency away from a
Yeah,
catastrophic event in our household, right? And so we want to make sure that we're the partner in that regard.
so important.
So I want to ask a question. So paying off debt or start investing, is there a rule people should use? An interest rate line where the answer flips from one to the other, McCall?
Yes. The sort of FIRE movement, be debt free, has really taken off. Student loans have people really concerned about, I want to pay off my student loans before I start investing. And I have to tell you guys, you have to look at your debt in terms of what am I paying on that debt. All debt is not the same debt. Ideally, if you have student loans, it is at a lower APR. It got you a better job. It moved you into a higher income bracket. That investment you made in your education should have financial upside to you. It should also ideally have a lower interest rate so that you continue to pay that off while you still create room to invest. I'm very worried when I see young people saying, well, I want to take my bonus and pay off my student loan. And then I say, well, what's the interest rate on your student loan? And they say to me, oh, it's 5%. And I'm like, oh, but you're 20. You should be investing in aggressive growth things in the market that are returning 18, 19, potentially 20%. You don't need to accelerate paying off the low interest student loan debt. And we've all made those mistakes. I made those mistakes. Like, oh, I want Sally Mae to send me that notice that says I'm student loan debt free. And I'm like, but it was 3%, girl. That's why when I met with my financial advisor, it was like, what are you doing? And we were doing the same thing on our mortgage. We are like, oh, let's pay it off. I want to be debt free. I want to get that letter, like the badge of honor, like, oh, I don't want to have student loan debt and have kids at the same time. And now in hindsight, I'm like, all those early payments, I could have been getting 8, 9, 10, 15%. So I want you guys to think about the debt in terms of like, it's an arbitrage. What am I paying versus what could I be investing and getting a higher return? I would never say this about credit cards because most credit cards have 18, 19, 20% interest rates on them. So if you're carrying a balance, you are paying that. So it is very hard to invest and outpace that higher interest rate. So really look at your debt. Get rid of the high interest rate debt so that you can free up capacity to invest and get better returns.
So, Attorney Crump, have you grappled with this question at any point in your own journey, and has the answer looked different for you? What mistakes have you made that you're
I
willing to
made
share?
all I made all the mistakes. Every
I'm
one
sharing
of them. I, I wish I knew McCall when I was younger. Uh, he said, let me make sure I pay off the credit card debt when you had low fixed rates. Let me pay off the mortgage when you had a fixed rate at record lows. And you was like, man, what I could have done if I knew then what I know now. Uh, and so I think this it goes back to financial literacy and trying to learn, just trying every day to say, I want to get smarter. You know, Steve Rabinovich, who is one of my partners, him and Jared, we talk about trying to have the mentality right. Like one of
Mm.
the things when you do start to get it together, and you will get it together, I promise you, we will work together. We'll have great thought leaders like McCall, Dana, all of us will be there for you when you call to call something to talk about budgets and those type of things. But when you get it together, and you have to never be complacent. You can never be comfortable. They talk about when you do go to the bank and they agree that your credit worthiness is good now, you everything looks good and they give you access to capital. And you say, okay, if you're doing an investment, whether it's in the stock market or property, and you get the return, and then you go ask for more. And when they say no, you listen to why they said no, and you go work very hard to correct those things because you want to keep every day trying to get better. The one thing I say is this, and McCall, I'm sure you would agree, it's okay to make a mistake
Yes.
as long as you make that mistake one time.
Yes.
You can't keep making the same mistake over and over again. And so I've
Yeah.
learned that I don't know it all. And if you're in the room and you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to change rooms. I want to be in rooms with people like McCall. I want to keep learning every day about financial. I want wealth more. So that's why I want to be with people like McCall.
I want more wealth too, Attorney Crump.
Let me tell
Exactly.
you, I share all my warts because we're all humans. It's a learning journey. For those of you, if you ever saw like the Wolf of Wall Street movie, I'm like, oh, that was me buying them penny stocks. Like it's a journey. You learn and you move on. Don't look in the rear view mirror, take the lessons. And I'm a believer in each one, teach one. So if my money mishaps, somebody hears them and they're like, "Ooh, I shouldn't do that. Like, I shouldn't be doing like predictive betting. Please stop betting your money on these betting apps. Like, learn from the mistakes, share them, learn from them."
So I'm going to ask this question because I think a lot of we've started having these Let's Talk Money conversations because we want to help people get comfortable with having the discussions around money that tend to be taboo a lot of times, and create a safe environment where you can ask the questions that you really want the answers to, and don't have to feel embarrassed, right? And or think that you should already know that answer. You can ask it here, and we'll make sure that the experts get you the information. But what is the thing that, and I'm going to start with you, Attorney Crump. What, and this is more like Monday is coming, right? What do you say to the person who believes that this conversation, particularly around investing, is not for them, wasn't meant for them?
That you have to get out your comfort zone.
Mm,
You have to say, not why me, but why not me?
mm,
You know, why can't I be an investor? Why can't I try to figure out how to make my money work for me versus me just working for money? And so that is it starts back with your mentality. And then you have to be willing to commit yourself to learning. Going on DreamFi's website, going on WealthMore website, reading books by people like McCall, really trying to say, I want to be better. I want to improve yes, myself in general, but I really want to improve my financial literacy. I grew up in, my story is well known. I grew up in the government housing projects of North Carolina with a single mother and my two little brothers, and I watched her do everything humanly possible I mean, to keep a roof over our head, to keep food on the table and hope in our hearts. And me and my brothers, we owe everything to my mother's sacrifice, but I also owe her to be better than she was. That's why she sacrificed all of that for me to be able to work smarter, to have more generational wealth than she was able to give me and my brothers. Because if I don't do that, then I'm kind of betraying her sacrifices. She didn't work two jobs for us not to go and do everything that this American promise has for us. I mean, it's about us being able to seize the American dream, not wait for somebody to give it to us. No, we go out and we seize this American dream and be able to give our children more than our parents gave us. That's why you learn to invest.
Yeah.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. McCall, if someone watching or listening to this conversation has saved, let's say, $800 and they have no idea what comes next, can you walk them through the actual first steps that they should take, the first moves they should make step by step?
Yeah, Attorney Crump is spot on. You need to see yourself as an investor. And historically, we've been told you're not an investor unless you're already a millionaire, or you're not an investor because you're a woman. You're not an investor because you're a person of color. And if we go deep into the history, people of color were, Black people were assets traded on these very stock exchanges. So historically, we have not been taught to view ourselves as investors, so I want you guys to embrace it. You're an investor. There's nothing stopping you. This is not like some super secret coded thing. The information is out there for you to absorb, learn, and start seeing yourself as an investor. Now, if you had $800 to invest, I'm assuming you have your rainy day, your emergency fund intact, you've taken care of those high interest credit cards, your only debt is low interest debt. Now you can go ahead. You now have the capacity to invest, and you want to start investing in an account that has no account minimum and has low fees, and try to work with an advisor. You can certainly do that at WealthMore. Our plans start at $25 a month. I like to say if you can have a Netflix account, you can have a wealth advisor at WealthMore, but just get started. And I want you looking at the markets. I want you to be well versed. Like, you want to be money savvy. Why not? Know the stock exchanges, know the S&P 500, listen to podcasts like All the Wealth, join us in these conversations. Because one of the things I heard from someone early on when I started this company, I was having a call with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about the Black community and why there was such a wealth gap. And this gentleman comes from the Jewish community, and he goes to me, "You guys don't have the bench strength in your community." And I said, "What do you mean that we don't have the bench strength?" And he said to me, "My buddies and I were already trading and investing in the stock market by the time we had our bar mitzvahs." And I couldn't believe it, because I'm like, bar mitzvah, that's like 12, 13. And he's like, our community had stockbrokers. And this gentleman's much older. So that means they were like literally like old school, had to get the paper, read the tickers, not all the stuff we can do online, but
Mm-hmm.
they were building within their youth and within their community already at that young age that you're an investor, you should play in these markets. I remember getting off the call, I was so shocked. I was like, how could an 8, 10-year-old learn how to invest? Then I went to my husband, I was like, can you believe what this person told me? And I was like, well, we have some children around here, let's try it. And I started teaching them to invest, and they're investors. They own stock. So it is possible, but we have to just get started. And you
Mm-hmm.
can start with $800. You can start with $5, because that's where the compounding really starts to kick in. And one day you're going to look at that account and you're going to be like, oh, it's 8,000, it's 10,000, it's 100,000. But I don't want you just to invest. I want you to bring the whole family along.
Yes.
I
But
want
I,
you to
I
drop it in
can I
the
ask the
group
question
chat.
of McCall?
I want you to
McCall,
drop it in the group chat. Yes.
yeah, I, I can. That's beautiful. Yeah, make it a family affair.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to ask you because, I'm a trial lawyer to
Yeah.
my core, and they say when you're presenting your argument or making your point, uh, never assume the jury gets it. They say you beat the dead horse, you beat the proverbial dead horse to make sure there's no doubt. Everybody
Yes.
understands what you're talking about. Can you explain for our DreamFi family? What is the magic of compound interest and compounding? And like we 3-year-olds, that's what they say in court.
Attorney Crump, if you can get Jay-Z to like rhyme about this, please, because I think it needs a jingle. When you see your friend Jay-Z, you tell him, can you rhyme about this one?
Okay.
Because it needs a jingle. Compounding interest, right? So when you get a mortgage, a car note, or a credit card, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I spent 500. How is this debt 700 or 800? That is you paying compounding interest. It is essentially if it's 8%, the balance grows to like 500 and let's say 10%. It grows to like 550 and then it grows to 600 and that balance keeps growing and you're making payments, but you're paying that interest and principal. Now let's flip it. If you're an investor and you invested $800 and you got 10% return, now it's 880, right? And then now it increases by another 10%. That's the compounding working to your advantage. That's what investing does. But most of us are paying compound interest versus investing so we can be on the receiving end of it. And that's the shift I need our communities to make so that
Hmm.
you're not always making money for people, that you are making money for you. I want
Awesome.
making money for you so that you open that investing account. And you're like, whoa, where all this money
Huh.
come from? That's your compounding interest.
What I
That's
just heard was compound interest is your friend.
it's, it's one of my BFFs for sure.
Okay, okay, that's what I heard. That's what I heard, McCall. Earlier in our conversation, McCall, you talked about people having a policy at their work and not just relying on that. But one thing I want to touch on is like 401ks, and because a lot of times people's first level of investment is with their at their place of employment, and
Yeah.
so my question is, what are people eligible for right now and not claiming from
Yeah.
whether that's an employer match, tax advantage accounts, credits? How much money are people leaving on the table is my question.
They're leaving thousands of dollars, right? And I want I often hear people say, well, let me break this down. So I'm going to be like Attorney Trump and beat this dead horse. I'm going to be a trial
Thank
attorney on this. I'm taking this with me. Your employer offers you a 401k, right? So you're eligible. If they say after a year you're eligible, whatever the rule is, once you become eligible, most employers offer you a match. The matches go from anywhere from 3% to 6%. So if you make $100,000, your employer says, if you put in 3%, I will match 3%. And then, of course, the limit that you can do annually is greater than that. But you should take the match. Why? It's not free money, it is your compensation. You have earned it. So when you don't take the match, you are leaving the hard earned money that you've earned on the table. And the matches are not retroactive. So if you didn't do the match in 2025, you can't go back to your employer and say, oh, can I have the match from last year? So here we are. Today's August 26th. If you haven't done the match, please, after this webinar, go and get your money. Please.
you.
That is your money. Now, most of your employers, and this was where I started my career doing 401k plans for small to mid-sized companies, they will now offer you a target date fund. It used to be super hard because you had to figure out what should I put it in. You had to be your own wealth advisor to figure out what investments are in the 401k that I should put my money in. Most employers, and this is also for the 401(c), so if you're working at a school, education, that's their equivalent, they offer what is known as a 403(b). That's right. They offer what is known as a target date fund. What does that mean?
Okay.
You take your year that you want to retire, and the fund says put the money based on that year. So if you're like, I plan to retire in 2050 because I will be 60 or 65, then you say put my money in the target date fund for 2050. What that means is the investment strategy is normalized so that it's more aggressive as you're younger, and it goes to more conservative investments as you're ready to take that money for retirement. So it is now taken that money management job off of you and built it automatically into a target date fund. So you don't have to sit there and worry about, should I do with this or should I that, or do I understand? Target date funds matches your friend. Target date funds are your friends.
Wow.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Because I have a follow up too. So go ahead, Attorney Crump. I'll let you go first.
so, McCall, for just a regular person, they got the employer offering the match. And
Yeah,
how does that measure up with your expenses, your
yeah,
bills and everything? And how much can you do it? Do you say, I just want it, anything disposable, I want to do it. I really can't afford that much because, my bills. Like, talk to us on that level, but
yeah.
just regular, everyday people just getting into investing and they trying to figure this out.
Yes. I want you guys, if you can, please try to take your investments off the top. Because then let's say you do the 3%, right? So now you're working off of 97% of what's left of what you've earned. And try to create your life budget around that with still creating room for more money for you to save and invest. You can always go back and tweak it. So let's say you try to take the match and you're like, I'm too strapped. I need the money. You can go and say, you know what, make it 2%, right? The match is generally up to 3% or up to 6%. So if you're like, I can't do the full 6%, maybe you can do 3% this year and work your way to making sure you can get 6% next year. But we can always, lifestyle inflation is real, right? If you don't take it off the top, you're going to find something to spend it on. Unfortunately, that's human nature. That's all the ads you're seeing everywhere. You'll be like, oh, I really need a nicer car. Oh, that vacation, I should go from you know, the poolside view to the ocean view. So try
Sure.
to take it off the top. And if you
Mm.
really can't, you can go back. It's literally you can adjust it between pay period to pay period. So if you feel like, wow, I need that money, you shouldn't be matching and have credit card debt. So if you're like, I can't do the full match, it's making me go into debt, go tweak it, lower it. But don't forget that that money is yours and you really should try to take that match.
Thank you for that,
Man.
McCall. When you used your example of 100,000, because early in my career, you talked about sharing your warts. I'll share mine. Early in my career, I did not take the match because I was like, look, I can't afford to do that right now. And just on that 100,000 at 3%, I'm like, that's $3,000. If compound interest was my friend back then, I've left a lot of money on the table.
Yeah.
I've left a lot of money on the table. And that one action, and I would just say, anyone listening, watching, that one action costs you nothing
Yeah.
to take.
Cost-
If you're not taking the match today, go into your system wherever and elect that. As McCall said, you can tweak it. You don't have to start at the highest end, but start.
Yeah.
Start is the thing.
Yeah. And the other thing on that point, Dana, because 401(k) contributions are tax free. So when you do it, your tax is then calculated off of the 97,000 versus the 100,000. So it's got like a dual effect as well. It reduces your tax liability.
That sounds like two wins to me.
Two,
We do.
as
Yeah,
we
a
say.
twofer. Exactly. So we do
Why,
have a couple of questions.
why would
So
they have more money?
yeah. So we have a couple of questions. I want to make sure we get to them. So Lisa Jackson, her question is it good to be aggressive with your 403B?
If you mean by aggressive in terms of trying to take the match and then taking the annual limit, absolutely. If you mean aggressive in terms of like the riskiness of the investment, that really depends on your personal risk appetite and also your age. Because if you go riskier and you have 30, 40 years of time in the market to sort of go and weather the ups and downs, that's very different than if you are ready to take money out in the next year or 5 years. That's not when you should be in the most aggressive growth options that are available to you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Stephanie Richardson asked if you had $4,000 right now, would you recommend investing in the stock? My screen shifted. Investing in the stock market or buy options.
This is options are a sophisticated investment vehicle. I don't know your level of sophistication in terms of trading. I worry because there are a lot of these apps out here telling people buy options, be day traders, but an option is a much riskier vehicle because you're either buying, you're shorting something, there's so many different options out there. So I can't tell you, and I certainly wouldn't tell everyone go buy options. It is a more sophisticated end of the investing, and I don't know if that's your only 4,000. Let me put it in this example for you guys. You want to have a diversified investment approach. And I'm going to use it in the example of burgers and fries. So if you remember the Hamburglar, you remember burgers and fries, right? Everybody wants to have, some fun in the markets and be like, oh, I got in Nvidia when it was $10, right? Everybody wants the, party, brag to my friends. I got into Apple when it was super cheap. I want you to think of those as the fries, right? That should be where maybe 10% of your investments are. The 90% should be in a diversified investment portfolio that reflects your risk appetite and the time you have to keep putting your money at work before you need it for, let's say, retirement. That should be in something that's more known, that's more secured. If that is your only $4,000, it sounds like you're going for fries when you haven't adjusted the burger yet. You got to address the burger first.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We have another question. How does one navigate brokerage accounts for retirement if a 401k or IRA is not available?
Yeah, you definitely want to have a retirement brokerage account. You can get those at many of the firms. I won't tell you, like, I recommend this one versus another, but you definitely want to take advantage of those retirement accounts because you want those tax advantages.
Awesome. Thank you. So I don't see any other questions. I may have a few of my own though.
Right.
A few of my own. Um, so
It is fan over very well.
thanks, Attorney Crump. So
There's
what?
one. How can we set up an appointment to look at our individual needs? I love this one because
Yes.
everyone's situation is unique. I
Mhm.
don't know if the DreamFi team wants to answer this, but at WealthMore, you can go on wealthmore.net. You can schedule a free intro call. Take a look at our advisors. You'll see they reflect all the communities that we serve, and that's very intentional.
And we will definitely be after this, for those that attended or are watching the replay. We will actually get some information out to you, to get you connected with McCall and team, and stay connected with the DreamFi team as well. Awesome. So, Attorney Crump, any closing thoughts as we come close to an end here?
But the one thing that I found fascinating about what McCall was saying was this 401k match because it is your money and most people don't take advantage of it. And I think people keep seeing themselves saying, oh man, I want to do it, but I just don't have the cushion there. And so I guess the question really, McCall, is just this here. Um, you got what if I could only have 3 months and not 6 months because I really want to try to do the 3%? Would you say do it or say no, you really want to have 6 months? Or I guess does that come down to the individual's appetite for risk? Because that's what I would be thinking if I heard this conversation. And DreamFi got me to wanting to think differently, to think about me being an investor, but I'm trying to be a responsible fiduciary to my family as well.
Yeah, let me, this is a great question. I'm so glad you bring up the nuances of the 401k, right? Because sometimes it feels like, oh, if I put my money in a retirement vehicle, I can't touch it until retirement. I want you guys to go into your company's 401k and look at the rules. There are a lot of myths about this. Like I had a young woman say to me, "Well, I don't want to put my money in a 401k because when I'm get ready to buy a home, I can't touch it." That's actually not even true. Certain plans, go look at your company's plans. You can pull money out of your 401k for like your first time homeowner needs. So the old plans used to be like, under no circumstances can you touch this until you're 65. These plans have a lot more flexibility than you realize. But exactly to Attorney Crump's question, if you're debating, this is why I say the emergency fund is a bit different from the 401k. It really is a matter of the emergency fund is, I have a situation, right? I need money today. So I should be able to go into my checking account, savings account, and write a check, right? Or I need to weather this storm. You can, in certain ways, do it through a 401k, but then you need to put that money in what looks more like a treasury bill or something so that it is a little more liquid and it's not as volatile. But you also want to look at the rules around penalties if you take it. Taking it for a home purchase is different, the rules, versus if you're like, oh, I now want to use it for an emergency. That's when some of those 10-20% penalties can kick in. So at which point it's not worth it. We're back to that math. Like if you're paying a 20% penalty on something that returned 6, 8, 10%, you're losing money. So this is why I still go back to, for most 401ks, the rules are not flexible enough for it to serve as your emergency fund.
Thank you for that, McCall. Um, I want to make sure that those that are watching, one, we talk about DreamFi. We started this conversation, but want to make sure that everyone understands who DreamFi is, what we're doing here in the community. And so I'll take a quick moment to just share a little information about DreamFi with our audience. I think the team has that teed up so we can share it.
What if one membership could help protect your family and build your future? Attorney Ben Crump founded DreamFi to give our communities real tools and real power on the path to financial freedom. DreamFi members get checking with no minimum balances. Plus, included in every membership at no extra cost, telehealth for the whole family, $5,000 in life insurance, 24/7 roadside assistance, cell phone protection, and savings on prescriptions, phone plans, and more.
I help build DreamFi because our communities deserve more than just bank accounts. You deserve a prosperous financial future, and DreamFi is here to help.
Don't wait to start your journey today. Try DreamFi free for 30 days, then just $9.99 a month. Visit dreamfi.com to get started. Member benefits subject to change. See complete terms at dreamfi.com. Banking services provided by FinWise Bank, member FDIC.
Thanks, team, for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Before we wrap today, Attorney Crump and McCall, can you give everyone one specific action they can take in the next 24 hours? Not someday, but in the next 24 hours, that they can take after this conversation to put them on the right path.
I'll go first because I want to give McCall the last word.
All
Uh,
right.
I, McCall, you've been incredible and you're an amazing thought leader in this area. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. I've learned a lot today. Uh, but it is always, always, always try to prepare yourself for success. Because if you can conceive it, then you can believe it. You start to say right here, this is how much I'm making. This is what my credit score is. These are my bills. I'm going to figure this out. I know I can do better. It starts with you believing. Now, I listened to this DreamFi webinar and they talked about financial literacy, but I kept hearing Crump say generational wealth is a way of thinking, it's a mentality. So today, I would start simply as when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, he said, you got to have a plan in this life. You can't go willy nilly. You all remember the movie, Spike Lee movie, he kept saying, where's your anger, shorty? Malcolm was always trying to figure out what everybody plan was because he knew even before he became Malcolm X that you had to have a plan in this life. And so, and he said, it's not real until you write it down. I today will start writing down steps I'm going to do to increase my financial literacy so I can have greater generational wealth. And I don't care if that's just writing down, I make this amount, my bills are this amount, and this is what I have left over. I'm going to figure out how to save more of my money
Yeah.
Awesome.
so I can invest.
You have
Mical?
Yeah, yeah, I echo every word that Attorney Crump just shared there. You got to see yourself, believe that you can be an investor, that this too is for you, and to own it. And I don't care what you've heard, what other people have said, own it, accept it, embrace it as something for you as well. And then I want you to add some of the tactical things to it because you have to up the knowledge base. I know you all are on these devices. The stock market is on your phone. I want you to put the stock app, open it on your phone so you can just become part of an investing community. And I want you to bring the family along. I will drop in my family group chat all the time. Anybody see what the market's doing today? Just to start the conversation. Anybody hear, the new Fed Reserve, what he said about inflation, or you guys see these gas prices? It gets people thinking about it and creating a culture around investing where we are not oblivious to what is happening in the market. We are market participants. And then I want you to find $5 to start investing. Try to find $1, try to find $5, and start thinking about what my investment would be with that dollar. So you can start to habituate it, see yourself, and then start taking these like practical steps to get into it. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh yeah, I do this every day. I got this.
Well, I definitely appreciate the advice from both you, McCall, and Attorney Crump. I will echo those sentiments and I will absolutely share that. This puts me in the mindset of our conversation with Deja Kennedy, the broke black girl. And she talked about having a money date with yourself and doing that not from a place of judgment, but just from a place of knowing. And so I want to encourage each and every person listening, watching to schedule a money date with yourself from a place of knowing so that you can find the $5, so that you can begin investing, understanding where you are and knowing where you want to be. And so we
Amen.
really appreciate you joining us for today's conversation around investing. And we look forward to having future conversations and for you to join us. We'll send out some more information. We'll get the replay out to all of you. McCall, Attorney Crump, thank you for carving out time in your day to spend time with us to Let's Talk Money with DreamFi.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much, Dana. Thank you, McCart. Our prayers for you and your boys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
This has been a pleasure. It's an honor to be with you guys.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thank
Thank
you.